Hey there, it's Kimberly here with Knit for Brains. One last episode on the ship. We're going to be talking about this book here, so stay tuned. Last episode on the ship. We are just about home. Maybe a little bit of cabin fever. I'm ready to be home. It's going to be getting really close to the holidays, and so that's going to get us all in a really good, fun mood. We got so much fun stuff coming up. My neighbor said, you got a lot of packages, which just means more yarn, which is great because I have literally run out of yarn on the ship and I don't know what to do with myself because I have nothing to crochet or knit. However, I did bring this book with me. This book is called Crochet Secrets from the Knotty Boss. This is by Leyzina. She is from the Ukraine, and she came over as a teenager, and then she went to fashion school. But it was really only about maybe 4 or 5 years ago that she started getting into crochet because she wanted a plant in her office, and she can't keep the real ones alive. So she was looking for like stuffed plants and started getting into amigurumi. Fascinating story. Anyways, this book belongs on every shelf of every crocheter, whether you're an advanced, intermediate, just starting out. This book has so many nuggets. So I went through it, a little bit of light reading, and I unfortunately didn't have post-it notes with me. I don't like dog-earing pages, but that's what I had to do. So we're going to go through this book. It is available on Amazon. It comes in somewhere around anywhere between $22.99. I found it on sale for $15.22 on Amazon. So you can be able to get it pretty much, at any one of your book retailers or Amazon. It released earlier this year, July 9th, I think it was, of 2024. So it should be available. This needs to be on your Christmas list. I'm telling you right now, this book is the bomb. It's tiny, so you can put it in your craft bag if you want, or just make sure that it's got a place of notoriety on your bookshelf. But let's delve in. So we start off with, if you're just basic and you're just starting out, she's got all the information in here about different yarn sizes and how to tell which yarn to use with which project, and crochet hooks and holding the hooks, whether you're a right-handed or a left-handed person. Or different kinds of yarn and how to tell which size yarn to use and how to measure the gauge and how to read a label. So real basic stuff. If my camera is moving back and forth, it's because the ship is moving back and forth and I can't hold my tripod and the book at the same time. So just go with me. It's like you're here. It's like, 3D vision. It also goes into, then it starts delving into, from the get-go, balls of yarn, and then it goes all the way through to the end. So it kind of takes you through a project, which I love. It's very organized, it makes sense, it's logical. Starting out, and this was something I did not know how to do, how to hand wind a center pull yarn of balls. So basically how to hand wind a ball, but to give it that center pull, which I was like, I don't know how to do that. What a great idea. Great pictures. Super easy information, really easy to understand. I love this. And then there's all kinds of information like how to make your bulky yarn into from like a single skein. So how to double strand it or even triple strand it, which I know how to double strand it. I wasn't aware of how to triple strand it, so that's cool. Talks to you about notions and needles and all the different kinds of tools that you need to get started. As the Brit always tells me, right tool for the right job. And, stitch markers and blocking tools and stuff like that. So you can like buzz through this part in the beginning if you want. Some of the stuff I found interesting, starting off with tying knots. I have always started off my projects with a slip knot, but here you can actually do a slip knot or a joining knot without actually putting a knot in your project. I was like, cool. I didn't know that. So I'm going to definitely try that one. Joining knots, that's always a thing for me. And it talks about the magic knot, which I'm going to give that one a try. The weaver's knot. It also talks about, this one is cool. I have seen this, I've never tried it. The invisible knot, where you use a darning needle and you actually kind of almost thread the two yarns together. So I dog-eared that. I'm definitely going to be trying that one out. As you can see, really great pictures, really simple information, and she has it categorized into the different parts. So if you look at the beginning, probably there's going to be a legend in here. Now, I will tell you that there's a big page right here in the beginning that says this is all written in US crochet terms, and that's really important to know. You hear me talk about that a lot. If you don't know the difference between US and UK terms, you got to check out my playlist. I've got one where I talk about the difference between US and UK. It's big, it's huge. So even though she's from Europe, she's from Ukraine, she writes this in US crochet knitting terms, or crochet terms, which I really appreciate, but you definitely need to know the difference. Then she talks about cracking the foundation. So I just started kind of playing around with the foundation stitch, which is when you do your chain and your first row together. Some of you might be like, where have you been? I know. It's a little tricky depending on if you're going to do a single foundation crochet foundation row, or a double or a triple, or however you're going to work it. But it talks about the chain, and here's your knotless start that I was telling you about. The best ways to start a chain, one of the things that always gets me is I count my initial chain, my rows, and then I'm always off on a count. So here we talk about just chain out as far as you want to go, and then figure out where you need your stitches to start, and then you can actually back out and pull those extra stitches out that you don't need. Brilliant. Then I'm not so crazy about, I hate the starting row. I hate it. So this way you don't have to worry about that. How to, if you're doing in the round or in a circle, how to do it without twisting your chains. Here it is. Didn't make enough chains. Fantastic. So just a lot of really great information, and it's all color coordinated. So you start out with your basics, and then you get into your starting knots, and then you've got all the little green tabs are all about your different foundation starts. A chainless foundation. So again, your double crochet foundation row, or stitches, or your triple foundation rows. And then, now this is always a tricky part too, perfecting the rows. You know how you get like the little ziggy zaggies on the end of the rows? We talk about how to make that nice and neat. I've done a tutorial video on how to keep those nice and smooth. But this one here, sometimes you get a project that the ends curl up, or, hello, we've all done this before, right? Where you haven't gotten really good stitch counts. These are just hints and tips and tricks, right? Curving foundation, stitches that curl. Now, she's showing a Tunisian stitch here. Tunisian stitches, as far as I know, always curl. They just do. So that's really going to be a matter of just blocking it when you're done with your project. But really good information. One thing that I do that she talks about here is in that initial chain, so after you do your foundation chain and you go back through and you do your first row, if you're not doing that foundation crochet chain, is you go into the back loop on that first row. And sometimes it's hard to find the whole entire stitch. So more often than not, I will do the back loop only. And what that does is it gives you a smoother start, but it looks more aligned with your last row. So the two rows look a little bit more in sync with each other. So that's really good. So that's interesting. And again, here's how you get your smooth edges. You got your wiggly edges and then your smooth edges. So some of this might be just like, yeah, I know how to do that. I'm basic. But because I had no projects to do, I literally read this book from cover to cover. And sometimes, you go through these books, you're like, let me just find what I need. Yeah, okay, well, I actually did that, but I also went from the beginning page to the end page. Refining the rounds. So it talks about doing the magic circle. I've done a video on one of those. Those are really handy to know. Or if you're going to do a chain ring. So it talks about those two guys there. Also, we talk about like securing the magic ring. Or if your rings are, and who hasn't done this, where your circle ends up looking more like a hexagon than it actually does a real circle. So here she talks about how to make those a lot smoother. Basically what you're doing is as you increase your rows, you just have to stagger your increase stitch a little bit, and that will keep it from, it doesn't increase at the same exact spot. It kind of moves around a little bit. So that's a good helpful hint. How to make the perfect flat circle. How many of us have had this happen, or the one up on top where it's curling? I love this book. Love this book. And then it talks about how to seam things together, invisible seaming, changing colors. So much great information in this book. For a book that's like $15, $20, this is like a wealth of knowledge. I was so excited to get my hands on this book. And then it talks about seamless color change. And the Brit was like, is that really a thing? And I was like, dude, let me show you the difference. So here's what I showed him. this is how we all kind of start out. This is pretty much where mine is now, but this is doing that perfect color change. So there's just so much great information here. And then if you're just really opposed to doing a color change using your yarn, you can always just do a single stitch afterwards, you know, like a crochet stitch, and changing your colors that way. So it gives you a lot of information. And here's a whole section on the secrets of amigurumi. And yes, there are some secrets that I have learned with amigurumi. Specifically, when you're doing your single crochet, normally we yarn over with the yarn behind. I think it's behind. I would have to do it, you know, because it's kind of muscle memory, but where the yarn goes behind the hook. But with amigurumi, if you do the yarn in front of the hook, you end up getting, instead of your typical V-stitch, which is this, you end up getting more of an X stitch. And what's good for amigurumi is that it keeps those stitches a lot smaller and tighter, because you're going to end up stuffing your amigurumi, and this way the yarn or the stuffing isn't going to start to, you know, push through. So there's little tips and tricks that you can do if you've never done amigurumi, and just to kind of get you on the right track. She even talks about like how to stuff your amigurumi. You know, this is understuffed, this is perfect, and this is overstuffed. This is a great, I thought, okay, well, you know, maybe I'll learn something, but honestly, I have got so many tips and tricks in here. More than half of what she talks about in this book, I was like, oh, brilliant, I gotta try that out. Definitely worth the money. And then it even talks about like assembling amigurumi, and if you want to do something, you know, beyond the safety eyes, because a lot of times you're doing amigurumi maybe for little peanuts, right, who you don't want to put a safety eye in the project, you can do felt or embroidery or something along those lines. And so she really delves into all the different stuff. Such a comprehensive little handbook here. And this, if you know anything about what I'm doing right now with Project Welcome Home, I'm all about seaming together the granny squares. We're doing so much seaming together of the granny squares. So she talks about a lot of how you join your stitches. This one here, if you want to have a little bit of a texture to it. I typically, when I'm doing specifically clothing, I think probably the mattress stitch is my favorite stitch. Which she talks about in here, because it's a seamless join, you don't actually see it. But this one here is where you don't actually sew it, but you use a crochet stitch through it, but you get this really nice kind of interesting color contrast of a border. So you can actually make it even decorative if you want to. Zigzag joint, a lot of different joining techniques. Then she talks about, again, because you're getting towards the end of your project, embellishing your edges. So you're going to do a fringe, if you're going to do a scarf or a blanket, how to do a border, how to do the perfect border, yarn fringe made easy. Now, you know, again, we probably know this one, but she had a really great tip. And I thought, oh, I never thought of that. So check this out. When your yarn fringe is uneven, you use a piece of painter's tape, tape it down to your cutting board or whatever, and then just, you know, use your little rotisserie or your cutting edge, whatever. But then all your little edges get caught under the painter's tape. Brilliant. I mean, maybe you guys are like, Kimberly, seriously, where have you been? I don't know. But obviously, I missed the boat. I missed the episode on that little trick. You know, and then here's how to twist your fringe if you want to do something along those lines here. I'm giving you all the pages here. I'm not showing it to you so that you can like go, oh, I'm going to copy that. But I'm showing you just how comprehensive this book is. And then they talk about flawless finishing, from fastening off to blocking, achieving that perfect finish. And sometimes blocking can be very intimidating, whether you're going to do a wet block or a steam block. She talks about that. She talks about fastening off so that you don't end up seeing all your little knots and your joins, and you don't have to weave in a lot of stitches, which is always a real pain. Towards the end of a project, I don't know about you, but I'm just like, I'm so done with this project. And I'm so ready to move on to the next one. So the finishing can be kind of the bane of my existence sometimes. And this talks about some real cool little time-saving things that you can do. And then she talks about, like I said, weaving in the ends. Last page, blocking. So blocking simplified. Now I do have blocking pads, right? Blocking mats. But she also, like I said, talks about the steam blocking, or if you're going to do the wet block. And then in the back here, the crochet cheat sheet. There's like 4 or 5 pages in here that is specifically about abbreviations, your US terms, your UK terms, choosing the best hook. How much yarn do you need? A lot of people are like, if I'm making my own garment, how much yarn do I need? And oftentimes it'll tell you this on the label, but not always. So it tells you here, if you're going to be making, you know, like your yarn weight, if it's a yarn weight of a 1 all the way to a yarn weight of a 7, and you're going to be making everything from a hat all the way down to a sweater, you know, how much yarn you're going to need approximately, depending on if you're doing an extra small all the way up to like an extra large. Great information. And then it just talks about who she is here. So again, this is Anna Leyzina. She is a graphic designer and a crocheter, and she her website and her Instagram is the Knotty Boss. And she was born in Kiev, Ukraine. She moved over here as a teenager, went to fashion school, and then just kind of found out that crochet is her game. So I wasn't sure if this book was going to just kind of be too simple for me, or if it was going to give me a lot of information. And it gives me a lot of information. This book is going to be on my short list of books. So if you're looking for something to give to a new crocheter, or someone that's even been doing it for a long time and you just want a nice little compact one-stop shop, this is your book. It's lightweight, it's small, 15, 20 bucks, so it's not going to break the bank. And it's just has got so many great illustrations, so many fantastic explanations in here. I was just really blown away. So this, my friends, gives 5 crochet hooks out of 5. Maybe even out of 4 hooks, I'd still give it a 5. It's amazing. Again, $15 on Amazon. I'll include the link to my Amazon store, and I've listed this. So if you want to just go and easily find it, you can go to that Amazon link that I'm going to include there in the notes. Go right to my Amazon shop, and it's one of the tops. You can just go right there and go right to the book. You don't have to go seeking all through Amazon, and I'll give you the link that has the best price to it. I have no affiliation, except I want you guys to have the best information, the best tools. And definitely I think you need to add this one to your library. So there you go. That's my review on the Crochet Secrets from the Knotty Boss, over 100 tips and tricks to improve your crochet. And again, this is by David and Charles Publishers, who I'm a huge fan. Equally, I'm a fan of the publisher as I am to all the artists and all the authors and artists that they represent. Fabuloso. All right. Well, that's all I've got for this one today. Next time you see me, we're going to be back in the Babe Cave, and I'm very excited. I'm really happy to be home. It was an amazing trip, so I'll be showing you all the really cool, fun things that I got. I didn't get any yarn. I did not come home with any yarn. If anything, I came home with no yarn and nothing to do. But I came home with some really cool, we went to places I've never been before that are really what I would call more on my exotic bucket list. We went to Thailand, we went to Vietnam, we went to Japan, Hong Kong, Taipei, and Taiwan, and then Hawaii. So really kind of more on the exotic side, just incredible. But we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of Project Welcome Home to talk about as well. So for those of you that are like, did you get my squares? I'm sure that I did. My P.O. Box man has been very sweet and kind, letting me know when boxes have arrived. I send my son over, he picks them up. So we'll be going through all of those as soon as we get back. And then we'll be talking a lot about Project Welcome Home, because we actually have a date now that we're going to be doing the big reveal. All right, so that's all I've got for you right now, literally out here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It is our second to the last night out, and then we're back home. Thanks so much for watching. If you just joined me, and we have a lot of new subscribers since we've been gone in this last month, and thank you so much for finding me. I'm so glad that you like the channel. Please subscribe. Please like this video. The more you like these videos, the more that it sends those videos up into your feed and into other people's feed, and that helps the channel and that helps you find us as well. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for telling your friends. If you haven't already and this is your first video, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, because we're gonna be doing a lot more videos just like this. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains, and as always, I'll see you soon, real soon.